And then when it comes to consolidation, do you feel that it's leading to fragmentation as well?
Yes, I think that it's going through a bit of a life cycle, right? Everything kind of goes in waves. We start with, GDPR hit, everyone consolidate, runs into the house, and then little areas can't be accessed from that particular house because you ran into the wrong building. So you go look next door, and then, oh, okay, well, hang on, there's something else to go there. So it goes in waves. It comes up and comes down. So yeah, no, there definitely is, the consolidation, fragmentation, kind of a back and forth way. The fragmentation is coming back, and I think the value of a multi DSP strategy is really starting to become apparent again.
Hello and welcome to the AdTech Heroes podcast. In today's episode, we're going to talk about consolidation in the ad industry. I'm delighted to be joined by Jacques, who's the head of Programmatic at Starcom. Hi Jacques, how are you?
Hey, I'm well. How are you, Dal?
Very well, thank you. Very well. So let's get straight into it. Let's start off with your career. I'd love to know, and I'm sure the audience would love to know, how you got to where you are today.
Well, I started a very long time ago. My first job out of uni. So uni, I studied marketing and advertising, brand and communication, did all of that. Then did a second degree. Then first job was at a bank of all places, and I was building their search engine. So looking at the data, looking at the output, and then working out, right, what pages do we need to build, and then updating the engine and constantly going back and forth. So it was very rooted in data and information, and I think that really started my fascination with ad tech. So a slight pivot away from the marketing communication kind of role that I thought I was going to go into. Then I did a stint in luxury goods, mostly trading in fine jewelry, really top end jewelry. Naturally, as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm from South Africa, and mining and jewelry is a big industry down there, so got involved there. Then about 10 years ago, I joined Publicis Group, helped set up their first dedicated programmatic trading desk for Sub-Saharan Africa. Did that for a little bit, then I moved to the UK, and now I'm the head of programmatic for Starcom UK, and I've had numerous different roles and functions over the years whilst I've been with the business. So it's always been keeping me busy and well entertained, I would say.
It's quite unheard of, isn't it, Reece? Someone sticking it out one company for 9-10 years. Is there any particular reason for that, that you stuck around with Publicis?
I think growth and variability and kind of the expectations of my roles, right? We've done so well with retaining clients and taking on new business. We've always keep our products and our approach to market fresh. We're constantly looking at how do we evolve our services and offerings, and that constant change, and also just a natural change of ad tech as well, really kind of makes the role very interesting for me and very dynamic. And that's really what I enjoy about the job and about the company, is that no one ever is complacent. It's always right. How are we going to improve things? What can we do better? What new innovation can we bring to the table? And it's very apparent, I think, to the marketer as well as to everyone that works here. It really is a good place.
Amazing. And what does a typical day look like for you?
Typical day as the head of programmatic for Starcom is quite diverse. So today I'm talking with your lovely self, and after this I'm going to go have a chat with some clients around the last quarter, various different leadership meetings where we've got to check in with individual client leads. But really it is, every day is different, whether we're working on new pitches or talking to clients, or just, everything that we've done is rooted in really good, solid foundation, brilliant basic, good operation, and build from there up. So, I will often talk to various different stakeholders in those different functions and roles, and just kind of help advise and grow and build. So there is no typical day, and that's part of, to your previous question, why I've been here for so long. If it was a typical day, I probably would have moved on by now.
I think that's the beauty of our industry, right? When we talk to people outside of our industry about our day to day and how varied it is, not just week on week, but day by day, they're quite, astonished by it. I think if you work in finance, you work in legal, you've got the same tasks to do day in, day out. And some people, to be honest to them, to be fair to them, they like that, which is great. But I think if you are in that mindset and you enter our industry, then there's a lot of you're going to expect a lot of changes. So I think that's super important. And I think adaptability is probably the key word in our industry. You need to be able to adapt to what's in front of you. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely fair to say. I think very adaptable, flexible. You need to be proactive and you need to be willing to learn. If I think, what I was when I was setting up a trading desk 10 years ago, what that looked like and what one looks like today, they're completely different. And I'm always amused when something big happens in our industry. Obviously, I suppose the last one that everyone kept on going on about was deprecation of cookies. And I was like, oh my goodness, the whole ecosystem is going to break. And it's like, but this is like the 7th or 8th time that the whole ecosystem was going to break over the last. So it never stopped. It was always changing. And that's fantastic, right? There's a lot more automation. There's a lot more sophistication as we go on. And those, I think, are really wonderful things. I think that provide benefit to clients as well as to agencies as well.
And even at CTAG, we've got a bit of a mantra like fail fast. So if you are going to fail, that's fine. Everyone fails, but learn from it and adapt and move forward very quickly. I think, again, as an industry, a lot of us are just dwelling on some failures or some negativity rather than just being like, you know what, it's completely fine to fail. Let's just move on. And I think everyone in the industry needs to get better at that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you in an ideal world, if everyone could take 10% of their budget and say that's going to be our testing budget, innovation budget, and just to almost write that 10% off, and use it for failure, I think you get much better, much quicker. But yeah, as you say, learn fast, and make sure you've got the right partners to take you on that journey.
We have to implement that as leaders as well, right? It's all good saying it on a podcast, but in the day-to-day, if our team comes to us and says, look, I really messed this up, and we confront it with criticism, then there's no point, right? So I think it's important as leaders to lead in that space, and especially the generation that's coming through the ranks now and climbing the career ladder is for them to also know that it's fine to make mistakes, it's fine to fail, but as long as we're reacting fast and putting things better. So today we're talking about consolidation in our industry. What do you think are the key implications for our industry when it comes to consolidation within AdTech and the agency world?
Well, I think consolidation has been a topic for quite some time. I would say if you go pre-GDPR, so pre-2018, there wasn't really much consideration for the sophistication of what programmatic is. I think it was very much a simple right person, right time approach. And everyone thought, well, that's really efficient, really good. But they never really understood the tech. They didn't really understand what it is they were dabbling into. And the size of the pie that we covered was much smaller. Then GDPR happened, and all of a sudden, my day job went from working with AdTech to dealing with privacy compliance officers and doing data registries and really getting into the weeds of it. And I think the net effect when that happened was everyone turned around and panicked and said, okay, well, we need to consolidate. And the likes of Google did very well there. They said, right, let's consolidate, put all your buying into a single DSP, frequency cap across everything. You're going to get yourself some extra incremental reach. Everything's going to be grand. And it worked. And you can see that growth, right? But that only got us so far. I think that now we're in the second phase where you're not necessarily getting that deterministic frequency cap. You're not getting that high accuracy that you used to get. So where's the value, right? The world has kind of consolidated into your main players, which is your Google Internet, which is obviously across your DV360 and Google Ads, Amazon has grown a fair bit in recent years, probably down to retail media and also, some good and quite strategic investment into their tech. And then obviously, the darling child of AdTech, Trade Desk, has had a meteoric rise over the recent years. So if you look at it that way, you say, well, those are your three big players. They're not any more able to do everything that they used to be able to do, right? So if you want to, for instance, run a CTV campaign in the United Kingdom today, it is impossible to run a proper one with a single DSP. If you want to access YouTube, you've got to go to the Google Internet. If you want to access Prime, you've got to go to the Amazon Internet. If you want to, bring it all together, well, it's not really possible in the way that it may was before. We're also seeing, the rise of these like smaller micro walled gardens, where we start seeing things like ITV with their Planet V product. If you want to access it, that's your route to go. If Spotify is another one that's come up recently, they've also said, well, they're launching their own platform. So we're starting to see lots of these little pockets, but it does make sense because deterministically frequency capping across all of that media, even if it were within a single DSP, is not necessarily possible anymore. If you take it in the light of, say, open internet display, probably one of the most mature sections, your deterministic frequency capping, I mean, it really does depend on which tech and which partner you use. We're probably only going to be about 60%. If you're going into a closed walled garden, say, a Amazon Prime or a YouTube kind of environment, that could be much, much higher, 90% plus. But that purely because of what and where you buy. So the complexities that are now coming out of that original panic of consolidate is now starting to shine through, and it's even coming through into the sell side, where people are now starting to ask questions like, do I even need a DSP? Well, in some cases maybe you don't. Others absolutely you do.
Does it make then the trader's job a lot more difficult now versus 10 years ago, in the sense that, like you said, everyone's like the Spotify's, the Amazons, you've got like so many different self-serve platforms now. Teeds is another one. Or is it better? Like, what does the trader want? Does the trader want one interface to go in and pick all their media in the best case scenario? Or do they not want that? Do they want to dip around different UIs?
I don't think they want to work with difficult UIs, right? When you get a platform that's just not very intuitive and not great, they will tell you, no, they'll do it another way. But if we've got well-designed platforms, so the Trade Desk is a well-designed platform, DV360 is, the gold standard of intuitive, basic, top-down kind of activation. Amazon's done amazing updates on their platform, and there's a lot of very interesting challenger DSPs coming out as well, doing some interesting things with different capabilities. As long as they are intuitive to use, the interface is user friendly, and it all kind of makes sense in a logical programmatic structure. Then I would say we would rather use more, right? We would rather explore. We're talking about be prepared to fail, put money into innovation, stuff like that. Well, to do that, you need to be comfortable with the idea of a multi-DSP strategy. And traders, sorry to say, they need to be versed again as they were back in the day. Then when you have your mobile DSP, your display DSP, and your performance DSP, we're not going back to those basic world, but we are going to, there will be specific unique use cases for each individual DSP. And that could be, say, if you're doing a location thing, you might want to do Bliss. If you want to do out of home, you might want to work with someone like a Vistar Media. So you need to be flexible with it, because find the right tech to solve your problem, right? Don't try hammer your problem into the tech that you've got. That's how you're going to do better.
And how important is training there as well for the traders? Because I think that's important, right? To a certain extent, because arguably you could say, well, 80% of media goes across two different platforms, right? Whether it's Meta and YouTube on a lot of campaigns. So maybe they don't need the training. They've got two platforms there and you need to use those two platforms, and they don't need to worry about the others. But you're saying at the same time that we need to innovate. They need to be learning these types of things. So how important is training in all of that?
Look, if you're okay with mediocrity, fine. Have one or two platforms. you'll actually do fine. No one's gonna tell you you're doing anything wrong. But if you want to do exceptional work, you need to be more flexible. And training for us is rooted in almost everything we do from day one. We force everyone in the department to have certification, myself included. My day-to-day doesn't necessarily involve setting up all the different campaigns in the DSP, but you can give me a laptop, I'll do it for you right now. Not a problem.
I won't know that. I know
These things.
working with you over the years, I know you'd get involved straight away, right?
Yeah. No, it's important, but we give the traders flexibility, right? And it's also which client you're on, what kind of questions do clients need solving, which will determine which tech is best for those challenges. So, but with that, we do also allow them to move clients from time to time, and often at their own request because they want to see what's out there, right? Think about what makes a good trader is someone that's curious, someone that is proactive, and someone who wants to learn. So if you have those characteristics, I promise you, you're going to be exceptional at this job.
Amazing. So we've seen acquisitions by large companies, the likes of Publicis and Low2Me and WPP acquiring Infosum. What impact do you think that has on some of these smaller agencies that don't obviously have that buying power? What do you think? What do you think is happening there in terms of the industry and the different players around it?
Well, I mean, from a publicist perspective, it puts us in a very good position. We, with our acquisition of Epsilon a few years ago and our acquisition of Low2Me, we unquestionably had the best ID graph in market by quite some way. We have a superpower in our remit. We are able to understand how consumers consume media and how they consume when they go shopping and all of that. And it gives us a way to really understand our clients' data and how best to action it across media. So for us, great. The acquisition of Infosum, I think, is quite an interesting one. Of course, we work with Infosum. We're still going to work with Infosum in the same way that people work with Low2Me. If you're working with Low2Me, I encourage you to carry on working with them. They're a great company. Same with Epsilon. The data is freely and open, but it is openly available on the open internet. You can go into DV360 now and search for an Epsilon ID, and you can apply it to your campaign, and you can transact it. That doesn't change. That doesn't go away. But what is the impact going to be for the smaller and the mid guys? Well, it's an interesting one, right? Because they can just carry on utilizing the platform, but I do think it opens up for innovation. I think someone might look at this and say, well, okay, if the holding groups are going in that direction, I'm going to go the other direction and create the challenger brand. And if you're listening and you want to do that, I highly encourage you to do that. I think that's what makes our industry great. It's the fact that there is always this innovation and new challenges coming in, new platforms, new data partners, new publishers, new formats, new ways of doing things. So I think it's exciting and interesting. Naturally, it bolsters, the holding group proposition, but I think it opens the gate for a new challenger to come in.
Amazing. And why do you think it is that? What's the rationale behind these larger agencies acquiring companies like these? Like, there must be. Is it because the clients are pushing them on certain things? Is it more so looking at the bigger picture and future proofing themselves against certain situations? Like, why do you think they're making these decisions?
Well, I can speak for publicists. It's a strategic decision to bolster our public society, which allows us to give us better deterministic measurement across the open internet. It gives us as I said, we've got one of the strongest, if not the strongest, ID graph on the planet. And it allows us to do things that we wouldn't be able to do if we didn't have that within our fold, right? It allows us to do better planning, it allows us to do better buying, and allows us to do better measurement. So we can treat through the whole process from end to end. And it's not just within the programmatic scape, but it covers everything. It covers all of our media, it covers all of our planning. So for us, it's a strategic play to be able to provide better insights and better performance for our clients and better outcomes. because that's really what it is about the end of the day. We need to find ways to help build our clients' success, and by partnering with us, we can work with the likes of Publicis ID and deliver that. But I like the rest of the industry. Openly wait and see. I wish them well. I think it's exciting times for them. I think they're definitely sitting there working out how to take this to market, how to develop the solution, how to enhance it. It's gonna have a data play to it, right? And it's gonna be something that is geared toward building client success. So I wish them well. I think it's very interesting. It's an interesting time to be looking at kind of products and product development at this stage.
Definitely. And so we've seen a lot of buy side consolidation, obviously agencies merging, acquiring data, DMPs, etc. But do you see this also happening potentially this year on the supply side when it comes to whether it's SSPs, media owners, AdTech? Do you see consolidation happening in on the supply side as well?
For consolidation on the supply side, it's a lot of questions around things like supply path optimization. So how do I access my inventory in the most efficient and cost-effective way? So there are a few key players in that space that are doing some very interesting things. We partnered with the likes of Google, Outright Buy for years now to curate and build out our supply bit, but still very much plugs into the DSP and you activate it from there. There are some now coming out and saying, oh, well, we can curate the deal for you and we can do the whole transaction on that end. Now, it might make sense if, say, for instance, you're doing the CTV buy and what value is the DSP adding? If it's not possible to add much value, then you need to have the discussion and say, well, in this case, maybe we'll go to the supply side. Sure, it's perfectly rational to do. As I said earlier, you should always try and find the right tech for the problem, not hammer the problem into the tech you've got. And if you're flexible like that and you have capabilities to be flexible like that, definitely do it. We are seeing some of the supply side getting much smarter how they package the information. So, before it was, well, I'm running a site list on this SSP, check, job done. Now it's getting much more sophisticated. We're now getting a very cool contextual elements that we can put in where it uses like LLM to work out the semantics of the pages, even developing custom credit for those pages. We're seeing a lot of that stuff. It really is an interesting time on the supply side as they kind of redefine their role in that demand side, supply side, traditional side by side play to the point where SSPs are now starting to go to clients and they're starting to say, hey, we represent these publishers and we do all of these cool things. I welcome it. I think it's fun. I think it's interesting. And I do think there is still, and there will still be for quite some time, a role for both of them to play. But yeah, definitely some very, very interesting things from the supply side coming forth now.
Interesting. And then when it comes to consolidation, do you feel that it's leading to fragmentation as well?
Yes, I think that it's going through a bit of a life cycle, right? Everything kind of goes in waves. We start with, GDPR hit, everyone consolidate, runs into the house, and then, little areas can't be accessed from that particular house because you ran into the wrong building. So you go look next door, and then oh, okay, well, hang on, there's something else to go there. So it goes in waves. It comes up and comes down. You really need to start with a brand challenge, understand your audience, right? Really understand your audience. Make sure that you've got very deep insight as to what media are they consuming, where do they shop, where do they hang out, what do they like, what do they don't like. Find out how to talk to them on a personal level at scale. If you can do that, you're going to be great. Then take that and then say, right, what technology, what supply sources, which SSPs, which DSPs, which data providers, which measurement partners do I need? Right, how do I prove success? And then bring it all together in a very unique, weird way. Then, cool, you've got yourself a media plan along with partners to you. So yeah, no, there definitely is, the consolidation, fragmentation kind of back and forth way. if you want to access YouTube, you've got to go to Google. If you want to have Prime, you've got to go to Amazon. So the fragmentation is coming back, and I think the value of a multi DSP strategy is really starting to become apparent again.
And you're saying so fragmentation doesn't necessarily mean it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? It's just that's happening, but it's could be still flipped in a positive way.
I don't think fragmentation is a bad thing at all. If you can't deterministically measure everyone everywhere with your current stack, which in most cases probably would be the case if you don't have a good ID solution, well then fragmentation is it's fine. It's a good thing, right? If you're going to do the same thing over and over with the same tech, then well you're going to get the same results. So if you want to find that incremental gain, you want to find that that next innovative piece, you've got to open up. And I'm not saying take all your money right now and go stick it in a challenger DSP and see what happens and try to pick it back. But maybe just start with 10%. Right, we're going to take just 10%, and don't do the fallacy of I'm going to do a head-to-head. No, the head-to-heads in the DSP in a bit of a world is not how it works. Look at the performance and the outcome. Don't throw like, oh well, we're going to build them exactly the same to do the exact same thing to then see which one is better. No, because depending which way the wind blows that day, one's going to be better versus the other. Rather focus on the capabilities. Like, why is this one different to that one? Is it inventory? Is it data? Is it different algorithm types? Is it different measurements? Or is it different integration? What is it about this different piece of tech that is different to what I'm doing now? Different, not always better, but try it, and you may find quite often it is better. And then you got to work out, right, well, how much money do I put there? How much money do I keep there? But definitely, I think kind of there's one message today. It's go have fun with AdTech again. You don't just have to have one DSP. We work with 7 every single day, and in a year probably that number will go to about 12 because we don't necessarily use some all the time, but on any given month there's 7 guaranteed.
It's a great way to put it. So like now in 2025, we've seen, if we take a step back, we've seen a lot of macroeconomic impacts, and they've impacted agencies and clients pretty differently. But what do you think these things like the tariffs, that we've had with good old Trump, what effects are agencies and clients feeling off the back of that, of these macroeconomic kind of changes and announcements?
I mean, okay, so the word of AdTech obviously is, if you look at the share prices, have had a bit of a knock. Unfairly, in many cases, I think, across the board. Not something they could have controlled for their own doing. It does obviously create some uncertainty, and uncertainty, not always a good thing in the world of marketing. But I still remain optimistic. I think we're in a calm period now. I don't know if it's simply calm before the next storm or whether it's actually calm and then stable. I hope it's the latter. But when it comes to individual clients, it is different client by client. There will be different levels of concern, different levels of immediate impact. A classic one would naturally be whiskey and spirits, Scotch versus American bourbon. Well, legally you have to make bourbon in America. Legally you have to make Scotch in Scotland. You legally cannot do that anywhere else. So it has to start there and it has to then be exported. So a tariff is naturally going to impact your costs, and the cost is naturally going to impact your sales. And unfortunately, it's the consumer at the end of the day that loses out. So it's a difficult one. We're naturally here to support our clients, support their growth. But as I said, I'm somewhat optimistic that maybe if we've turned a bit of a corner here, and we can get back to focusing on long-term and sustainable growth for it all.
And are clients coming to you and asking you, like, how is this impacting us? Or are they looking to you for advice, or the other way around? Are they giving you advice as well? Like, it'd be good to understand that whole client agency relationship off the back of these kind of tariff changes, for example.
We work very much in a partnership, right? You will have people that are dedicated to your account, that know your business as well as you do. I think that it's important to have people that are passionate about your business. So when something affects you, it affects them too. And we understand that, right? We get involved with our clients to a very high degree where any kind of change like this, we're on top of, and we have open discussions, right? They talk to us about what they believe the impact is, and vice versa. We share, and we try to strategize together. We try and build a plan to return to growth, to bring them back into a position where they feel comfortable to invest and get into their usual ways of working.
Well, that makes sense. So a lot of our listeners are programmatic professionals working at tech, working at agencies. What's the most important mindset shift for them right now, and how do they stay ahead of any industry changes?
I think the most important mindset change for you now is, if you think 10 years ago, how many people took to set up a campaign versus today, how much it takes to set up. The barriers of entry are dropping. The sophistication that a programmatic creator used to do, the mystical back end we operate within, is becoming more and more automated with the likes of analytical AI and even generative AI. We're starting to see campaigns being built before our eyes. We're seeing, tell me some insights on this campaign as a prompt. Put it in, it comes out. As a result, some people have expressed a bit of concerns around, what does it mean for me? I think it's very important to take it as a positive. Don't sit back and wait for this to overtake you. I think what you really need to do right now is you need to embrace it. I think you need to speak to your Google rep, your Amazon rep, the Trade Desk rep, speak to all your SSPs and everyone. Be like, right, how have you integrated AI into your system? How have you made your system more operationally efficient? How have you made it more data driven? What insight can I drive out of this thing quicker? Right? Embrace that workflow and get that workflow into your daily. Get that into your team now. Because if you wait another 2 years or even a year, you're going to find yourself in a pitch where you're not going to have much to say in that space, and unfortunately, you will lose, because that is the way the world goes. And it is, as I say, it's not different to how things have happened before. The platforms are significantly more automated today than what they were 10 years ago. They're now going through another phase of automation. So stay on top of that, stay in front of that, make sure that gets woven into your workflow, and you'll be just fine.
I think it's advice we can all take, right? To lean in and not to just wait for things to happen. I think you could probably use that in all aspects, not just in our careers, but in life. Let's lean in a bit more and not wait for things, because the people that wait for things are still probably waiting right now, right? So you've got to make action, you've got to lean in, and you've got to implement change. We always finish our episode with this question, so I'd love to get your take on it. If you had a superpower in ad tech, what would it be?
If I had a superpower in ad tech, it would probably be to buy YouTube on any platform I choose. I mean, that might happen. I might not need a superpower for that in a few years, given the DOJ ruling, but I don't think it's coming anytime soon. So I'd say that's a superpower, being able to access all the inventory from anywhere you want, in any way that you want, particularly across the likes of some of the more traditionally closed walled gardens, such as Amazon and the Google Internet.
Brilliant answer. I've never heard that before, and I've done about 50 episodes. So quick follow-up on that. Why do you care to access YouTube through different ways? Is it then giving you you want the ability to overlay and different data sets, or extract more in terms of reporting and measurement?
Remember, for the older traders, the more seasoned amongst us, will remember there was a time way back when DoubleClick allowed you to use third-party data across YouTube. They took that ability away. All this Google data. So I would say why is because I believe in openness, I believe in transparency, I believe in access, and that's not just from YouTube. That's across everything. That is your display, your video, your CTV, your audio, out of home. absolutely everything. I'm a big believer in transparency, accountability, measurability, and access. And I think there's a lot that can be said and a lot that can be done to improve the transparency, accountability, and accessibility for some of the closed walled gardens. I know that if they did that, it kind of then goes against everything I said about, fragmentation and it goes back to consolidation. But maybe that's the next wave. Maybe that, we'll have that conversation in 5 years' time and we'll come around to that.
Yeah, and you can still, with fragmentation, have transparency, right? And I think the key word you mentioned there is that the transparency and also flexibility as well. I think it's important to give you that power as a trader to make those decisions rather than being forced into certain decisions. Brilliant.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's all we have time for in today's episode. Thank you, Jacques, for your time. It's been great speaking to you.
No, great fun. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.